You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. Today's episode is a special one because enrollment is actually open for our Backpacking Badass program, and I decided to bring onto the podcast one of my incredible clients to really show you what's truly possible when you pair your dream to go backpacking or even solo backpacking with the right tools and the right support and even the right community. So today I'm going to be bringing on my client Tiffany. We're going to be interviewing her here on the podcast, but I want to give you a little bit of background first. So when Tiffany first joined the Backpacking Badass program, it was back in 2022. She had never been backpacking before. And in fact, when she found us, she was actually literally getting her nails done, watching one of our free backpacking workshops that we were hosting back then. And for her, it was like this full body hell yes moment. And she ended up joining really shortly after watching that workshop. And then just a few months after joining us in the Backpacking Badass program, Tiffany was out there impressing her experienced backpacker friends on her very first backpacking trip. And then by her third ever trip, which was even less than a year after joining, I think only a couple months after her first backpacking trip with a group, she was out there solo backpacking. And listen, solo trips are a big goal for many of my clients. They're definitely not a requirement. Some women who join our Backpacking Badass program join to become strong group contributors, or some want to lead trips and take their friends and families out and just learn how to be a better leader. And some want to do all of that and they want to go on solo trips. Or some people eventually decide they want to do a solo backpacking trip. But whatever your backpacking goals are, we've got your back inside of the Backpacking Badass program. We cover it all, even people who want to just be more self-sufficient in their day hiking. So back to Tiffany. Today, this is a little bit of a spoiler. We're going to dig into it in the episode, but Tiffany has completed 33 backpacking trips. Many of them have been solo, including she has also gone on this epic 6-day Grand Canyon adventure recently, which was her longest backpacking trip to date. So in this episode, we're going to be diving into her full transformation from being a total beginner to a confident solo backpacker, what she's learned along the way, and how she built her outdoor confidence one intentional step at a time with a little bit of help from the Backpacking Badass program and community. And again, this episode is airing during our summer enrollment week of the Backpacking Badass program open enrollment. Enrollment is open from June 9th through 13th. We are offering some of our best deals and our best summer bonuses ever for this open enrollment. And this is your chance to go from maybe being just backpacking curious to a confident backpacker just like Tiffany. The Backpacking Badass program isn't just a course, it's a full transformation. You get to learn everything from physical training and trip planning to navigation, safety, gear, mindset, and everything in between. Plus, you are going to be learning everything, and you'll be supported by expert backpacking coaches, including myself and my team, and a community of over 1,700 women who truly get it, and they have been there, and they understand all your questions and any of the fears and hesitations that you might have. We have got your back inside of that program. There are no silly questions in this group. We are here to support you in your journey into hiking and backpacking, whatever that looks like. So if you're ready to build your skills, feel empowered and self-sufficient on the trail, and maybe even go solo one day like Tiffany, go to shedreamsofalpine.com/enroll to get all of the details about the Backpacking Badass program and our special open enrollment. And yeah, maybe see you inside of that program. We would love to have you inside of our community and to support you in all things backpacking and the outdoors. Again, enrollment ends on Friday, June 13th at midnight. Okay, let's dive into Tiffany's story. It's a good one. I cannot wait to bring this to you. Okay, welcome, Tiffany. I'm so excited to have you on the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay, so I did a little bit of an introduction to you before we get into this interview. So some of our listeners have like a little bit of background on you, but I want to start with a quick intro anyways. So you joined, if I'm remembering correctly, the Backpacking Badass program around 2022. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were brand new to backpacking before you joined that program, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Were you outdoorsy? Had you already been like hiking or doing things outside? Like, I'm very curious, kind of a little bit of your background.
So I would say right before joining the program, I had really started getting into hiking. I
Okay.
would not call myself outdoorsy at all
You
at
were
that point.
dabbling though. You were dabbling.
Yes.
Nice. I like it. So, like, so when you grew up, like your family didn't grow up doing a lot of camping things or getting outdoors or anything like that?
Well, growing up, my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side, they have a cabin down at a lake in Missouri, and every summer my dad would take us and go down there, and we camping was like sleeping in an RV or in a
Yeah.
camper or in a cabin. So I wasn't tent camping, I wasn't on the ground, I wasn't digging a hole and
Yeah.
sleeping in it,
Yeah.
uh, hanging out on a boat, going to the lake. It was more casual. It was not to the level that I do today.
Yeah. Okay. But I like it. It's like a little bit of intro into the outdoors, maybe like sparked a like curiosity to like explore that deeper.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So getting into hiking, what got you into hiking? And was that what kind of like made you want to get into backpacking? I'm curious about that like transition for you.
So I had done a few hikes years ago. I would say back in 2015, I got really into like nutrition and exercise. And at that time, I had a coworker who was like just crazy about nutrition and exercise. And
Yeah.
he took me to go on the Echo Canyon Trail on Camelback Mountain in Phoenix. And I did that a couple times, and that was like really the first time I really hiked. And
Yeah.
then I haven't done it since. And then in 2022, I got introduced to camping. I had a acquaintance that took me camping with him and his friends, and I immediately fell in love. And then that same acquaintance also started taking me on more hikes. And then it was kind of after that camping experience is really where I fell in love with the outdoors. And I
Yeah.
really ramped up my hiking. I would go hiking all around the city of Phoenix. And then I started branching out, going outside of Phoenix, going to Tucson, the
Okay.
Superstition Mountains, and going to other places.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. So then like so if I'm remembering like your story correctly, I think you were watching one of our free workshops.
Yes.
And is that kind of what you were like? Had you already been thinking about getting into backpacking, but like curious where to start? Or I don't know, that was like when it first entered like, I'm just curious.
So I think as far as backpacking goes, you see these things on TV and in
Yeah.
movies, people like backpacking across Europe and like going to
Yeah.
these really cool places. And I always thought that that was something really cool. And I always wanted to try it, but never really got into it. And as I really started getting into hiking, I started kind of being exposed to backpacking. And then I saw your free webinar on Instagram, and I joined
Yeah.
it and I listened to it, and I really kind of sat with myself and I was like thinking about the cost. Did I
Yeah.
feel like paying for these workshops was, going to pay off and benefit me? And after thinking about it, not for very long, I decided absolutely, I think it would greatly benefit me because at the time I didn't have any resources. I didn't have
Right.
any friends or anyone that I knew that goes backpacking or is experienced in that area.
Yeah.
And you were my first real exposure to information and guidance. And so
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely, this is something I definitely want to do. And I believe it'll pay off. And it absolutely did.
Yeah, which I'm so excited to like talk more about. Like your journey has been, we talked about it a little bit before we started pressing record, but like very inspiring. So that's why I wanted to bring Tiffany on today. But yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, I mean, you always have to weigh your where you're at in life and like your decisions and seeing if it's a right fit for you. But it seems like you were like right in the perfect spot to kind of like step into the new thing. I can so relate though to kind of having that moment where you're wanting to get more and more into the adventure stuff and like take it further and challenge yourself, but also some of the friends that maybe introduced you to it aren't really the ones who are going to like continue to foster you to the next level just because that's not where they're at or their interest might be at.
Mhm.
That's very similar to kind of like my experience as well. Okay. So kind of before we go into your very first backpacking trip, which I want to talk about, let's zoom in a little bit. So beyond your goal of like getting into backpacking, where like since you were day hiking, were there some like very specific areas you were thinking about for yourself that you knew you wanted to grow in particular?
I think with with day hiking a lot, some areas that I wanted to grow stronger in would be really just focusing on self-sufficiency.
Yeah.
I I'm an only child. I live and grow by myself constantly. So being
Yeah.
alone is not something new to me. And as
Yeah.
I've gotten older, I've actually learned to enjoy being alone. So that part was never scary for me. It was just
Okay.
making sure that I'm safe,
Yeah.
that like I make good decisions. I know how to keep myself safe. And then like navigation is a really big piece. I don't
Yeah.
have any background in like map and compass navigation or
Yeah.
anything like that. So all of that was new to me. And in moving from day hiking to backpacking, it's more time out in the wilderness.
Deeper into the wilderness. Yeah.
It's all about navigation
Yeah,
and
especially where you live in the desert. Yeah.
yes, yes. So that's kind of really what I was going for.
Yeah. Um, okay. So you joined around September of 2022 and you're in the desert climate, so that kind of like set you up for success for a backpacking trip, in the winter, which not everyone has the opportunity for. But I believe your first backpacking trip was around February of 2023, which was only a few months later. And we were reading back on that trip, Kelly and I from my team, and we were like, okay, that trip sounded pretty impromptu. You were invited by a more experienced friend that you had. So, like, can you tell us, maybe walk us through that moment where you get invited on this trip? You're kind of like going through this program, but you haven't gone on your first trip yet. Like, what was coming up for you? And was it like a hell yes, but also, or like, I don't know, give us a behind the scenes peek at that.
Oh, that's a very interesting story. So, I met this friend through a meetup hiking group.
Okay.
And so in that group, we connected, we exchanged numbers, we started going on day hikes together, getting to know
Okay.
each other.
Yeah.
And that coincidentally was either August or September of 2022 as well.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of 2023, I planned a day hike for us like that first Saturday. And
Mhm.
on our way there, after I picked him up, I was like, okay, this year I want to go backpacking. I want to go to the Grand Canyon. I want to go to Utah. I want to do all
Yeah.
the things. But
Yeah.
I still had not had my gear yet.
Okay.
And so it was either it was either like mid to end of January. He texted me and was like, Tiffany, we're going backpacking in 2 weeks. Get your shit together. And I was like, oh no, I need to
It's
get all my
happening.
gear. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
I immediately like basically what I did was I logged back into my account in your program,
Yeah.
wrote down all of your recommended items, and I literally just purchased everything that you said
I love that.
and then went through the gear vault and was just reading everything because I'm like, I don't know how to use these things. I don't know
Yeah.
how to use the stove. I don't know how to
Yeah.
filter
You were like, I
water.
thought I had more time to learn this.
Yeah, and even funnier caveat is on that first trip when I first had to use the stove, it scared
Uh-huh.
me because it was so loud,
Okay,
like
that is
so
very common.
powerful, and I was like, "Oh my God."
That's actually so funny because we take clients out with our adventurous reinvention experience, and like every time it's somebody's first time to use the stove, everyone's like terrified of that first light, you know? And then you get used to it later, but it's always
Yeah.
scary for everyone. And sometimes even turning the canister into it, it'll like spurt at you a little bit.
Yep.
But that's so funny. Okay, so this is actually funny. Kind of relates when I first got invited on my very first backpacking trip, except I didn't have the program to log into. My friend gave me like a written down list he had, and I like went to REI and was like, I need things. And I also scrounged together stuff that I had at my house that could maybe work. But you make it happen for your dreams, you know? You're like, okay, I told the universe I wanted this and here it is. So I'm going to, I guess, go for it, kind of like, and figure it out. Okay, okay, we just talked about the gear. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes because I had a few things I like particularly wanted to ask you. Um, so tell us about how you felt on this trip. Like, I know when we had talked, we actually did an interview with you like early on in your backpacking journey about your experience. And I remember you reflecting that you did feel prepared for that trip, but like kind of give us some more behind the scenes of how that trip went and what that was like for you, your first trip.
So I remember the first time putting on my pack because I was like, you buy all these things, you somehow manage to get it all in your pack, and then you're
Yeah.
like, there's no way I'm going to be able to carry this thing. I remember even trying to like put it on a scale to weigh it because
I was
I
going to say, do
know,
you remember how much it weighed?
because you say in your program your goal is like 30 35 pounds, like no more than
Especially when you're
that.
starting out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was around 35 pounds. It may have been a little bit heavier,
Yeah.
but I think it was around like 35 pounds. And I remember putting my pack on for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, this doesn't like feel heavy or anything.
Oh, well, that's good.
Like growing up in high school, carrying all those books and that backpack, like
Oh,
that
it prepared
hurts.
you for that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, this was like way easier than high school.
Yeah.
So that felt very interesting. And so the first trip I went on was the Boulder Canyon Trail in the Superstition Wilderness.
Okay.
So it's a canyon trail. So you go down on day one and then you go up on day two
Right.
coming out.
So it was a 2-day trip, one
Yes.
night.
Yep.
Okay.
Just an
Yeah,
overnight.
anywhere where you live, like half of the trails are like that. You go
Yeah.
down and then you come up at the end.
Yeah. So like day one, I'm going down and I'm like, oh, this is easy. I got this. Except it was like a little windy and I was like getting pushed by the wind because I'm like this big
Yeah.
and my pack is like this big.
Yeah.
So trying to manage the wind and my pack and maintaining my stability, I learned literally on my first trip that I always need a backpack with trekking poles because that's how I maintain my balance, just
Yeah.
because like I am so much smaller than my pack. It's quite ridiculous when you see me in person.
Yeah, trekking poles are so useful for just so many different people and style. Like I trip over myself all the time, so they're like extra legs. So, yeah.
Yeah. So day one, I felt really, really good, made it down to camp, set everything up. Coming out on day two was a little bit of a struggle.
When you
I
were
had to work,
questioning all your life choices.
right? And Another funny moment, there was this, and I don't exactly remember what happened, but I definitely fell and I fell backwards. Like I landed on my back and I was definitely like a turtle. I was like, I can't get
You're
up.
like, help.
And my friend had to help me get up. I now know how to get up when I fall and I'm
Oh, good.
backwards.
Yes, I mean, we have to have these experiences so that we can learn, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, an easy like I love that your first trip was like a one night trip. I always kind of recommend to people too to like, dip their toe in and then you get to learn a lot about like your gear and your systems and like did this feel good? Did this not feel good? How do I get off my back if I fall backwards onto it? And then you can take that onto harder trips.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned falling back. I don't know why this just reminded me of it, but I was like last time I was in the Grand Canyon, I fell and sat straight on a cactus. And I was just like, like it was like less than a mile in and I was like, wow, this
Oh
is going
no.
great, Allison. This is a really good tale. And
I hope you had a cone.
my friend pulled all the little things out of my butt. So it was great. We had a bonding moment. Okay. So that was first trip. And just to get like listeners a peek at what has happened and unfolded since that trip. So this is 2023, early 2023. And since then, like correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw this like on your Instagram. You have been on 33 backpacking trips
Hmm.
since that first trip or including that first trip.
Yeah.
Um, and you took 16 trips in your first year. So when I wrote that down. I'm okay. That's your first year, as in the same year you did your first backpacking trip, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's amazing and wild at the same time.
I know.
So kind of like give me a peek at that. You went on your first trip. I
Mhm.
guess you had all the gear at that point, and then you had
Yep.
a taste of it. So like, then did you just start mad planning more trips, or you kind of did them spur of the moment, or kind of curious?
So how that developed, so my first trip overnight in the Superstition Wilderness, my second one I did Saguaro National Park because I don't know, I have like this weird thing about national parks and I want to backpack in all of them.
Oh,
So
saguaro is the one with those huge cactuses, right? Oh,
mhm.
that's really cool.
Yeah. Now after that, because that was later in February or maybe early March, I got invited on a 4-day backpacking trip on the Highline Recreational Trail.
Okay.
Um, and in that itinerary, there was going to be like a 15-mile day. And while I was like, yes, I want to go on that trip, I was very nervous because I had never done 15 miles
Yeah.
hiking, let alone backpacking.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a
so,
big day either way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I started researching different loops or out and backs where I could practice a 15-mile day with my
Mhm.
pack and actually backpack. And that's where I actually did my first solo trip. Actually, I did
Fun.
two solo trips.
Yeah, it was like your third trip or something. That was your third or first solo trip, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. That was my third one. And my fourth one were both solo in preparation for that 4-day trip.
Mm.
Because my friend wasn't available, but I needed to practice more and
Right.
condition
It's kind
my
of
body.
nice to get that confidence boost too. If
Hmm.
you're like uncertain about a particular thing. Yeah, I love that you did that.
Yeah, and then after those two, that was the Highline Trail that I did. And I can say that before I did my first 4-day trip, I was very much like, I don't understand how people can go backpacking for like months on end and do all
Yeah.
these crazy through hikes. Like that just seems like a lot to me. And then
Yeah.
I did my first 4-day backpacking trip. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I
Yeah.
completely understand why people do it. And I think the biggest thing that that got me because in my mind, I was like, I don't understand how like you could just keep going. Like, aren't you going to be sore? And like, it's just going to get harder. But like,
Right.
that's the exact opposite of how your
You,
body works. The
yeah,
human
you kind of find your stride. Yeah.
Yeah, the human body is so amazing because as long as you feed yourself well and you get enough rest, you literally recover overnight. And the next day you wake up feeling great, ready to hike another 15 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like, well, I remember when Michael and I did the John Muir Trail, it was always the first like 2 or 3 days that felt honestly the worst and like most miserable because you're still, especially because some of the times we didn't train for those and we would just go out and we just get started. We're like, oh, we're going to adapt onto the trail. Not what I recommend to like most people, but we had been doing it for a while. So, um, but yeah, around day three, like you notice your body just kind of starts adapting and like finds its stride, and you really kind of settle into like doing more and more days. Yeah, that's awesome. So then you just kept it going, it sounds like, for the rest of the year. And you're kind of living in, well, I don't know. It's actually quite hot where you live. I guess you can go up to like there's certain areas you could escape to, but did you do all of these 16 backpacking trips in the shoulder seasons or did you escape from Arizona? Like, tell me more about that.
So, there's a big misnomer about Arizona in general because when people say Arizona is it's so hot, it's a desert. No,
Right.
that's Phoenix.
Yeah.
Specifically, you're talking about Phoenix. Tucson,
Flagstaff is better. Yeah, true.
Flagstaff, you're talking about 8,000 foot elevation.
Yes.
Phoenix is at 1,100 feet. Tucson gets snow. Yuma, you're gonna die in Yuma. Don't go there. But but that's the beautiful thing about Arizona is it's not a desert. It's
Yeah.
got all elevations. It's part of the Grand Staircase, if anybody knows anything about that, because you've got the
Mhm.
Grand Canyon at the highest elevation on the North Rim, and then it just slowly comes down from there. You get down to the Mogollon Rim, and it gets warm, but it's a lot cooler than when you get down into the Valley of Phoenix. So the great thing about Arizona is you can literally do outdoor activities year round. You just move with the elevation depending
Right.
on the time of year. So in the
Yeah.
summer, you go to higher elevation. In the winter, you go to lower elevation.
I love it.
Mhm.
So do you have like a favorite area of Arizona that you've been like that you've backpacked in so far?
I hate to be cliche, but my favorite place to backpack is going to be the Grand Canyon always.
Oh, I mean, it's not cliche. The Grand Canyon's pretty rad. Like, my friend Meg, we had her on the podcast back in like February. She took me on like one of the most rad trips that I've ever been on, and that was on the Royal Arch Loop in the Grand Canyon. And yeah, sick. I'm super excited to do more stuff out there because I've done the rim to rim twice, but outside of that, that was like the only other trip that I'd done there. So I'm really excited to go back. It's beautiful. There's like so many elements to it.
Yeah, it's
And every
amazing.
day is a unique adventure, like in its own right. Yeah.
The microclimates are insane in the Grand
Yeah.
Canyon.
And I feel like we have all these funny sayings through the Grand Canyon that we made up on that trip. We're like, the Grand Canyon giveth and the Grand Canyon taketh. And we call it the Almighty GC. You know, like it has its own kind of like it's just like a different beat of the drum than other areas that you go to. Um, have you done much backpacking outside of Arizona, or has most of it been focused inside of Arizona?
Would say 99% is in Arizona. I have backpacked in Zion National Park. I've backpacked in Bryce Canyon. I did those in 2023.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's all out of state I've done so far. This
Cool.
year though, I've got a lot of plans of going out of state, with my first out of state trip being next month at Sequoia National Park in your neck of the
Oh,
woods.
love it. You're gonna love it. That's so cool. Yeah. Getting into different climates. You're like a desert expert now. And
I
so now
am.
you gotta go cut your teeth in the mountains and then the forest. So Though you have some of that too, like we just discussed. And
Yeah.
yeah, Arizona does have a lot. I always forget that too. Then when I say it, I'm like, what are you talking about, Allison? You've been to Flagstaff a million times, and half those times been snowed out because it's
Yep.
like some winter storm warning. Okay, we kind of brushed by this like very quickly when we were talking about your first year, but I want to kind of backtrack to your very first solo backpacking trip. Especially because at the time that this airs, I know we're doing a little recording this a little bit ahead of time, but we will have just wrapped up our solo adventure summit. And so I just kind of want to give people a peek at kind of what dipping into like solo adventures was like for you. Um, so, okay, you mentioned kind of really briefly that when you went on your first solo trip, it was to prepare for this bigger trip. That was the motivator. I'm curious if you had solo adventures, like solo backpacking trips on your mind when you joined the Backpacking Badass program, or did it kind of like first become real to you when you were preparing for that first big trip?
I would say backpacking solo was always going to be on my mind
Yeah.
because I naturally just do everything on my own in
Yeah.
general in my life. So that's not something new to me. And knowing that like I don't really have a lot of friends, and it's like as an adult, it gets really hard to meet people and make those connections, to
Yeah.
consistently do things with people.
Yeah.
So I already knew that I would be doing the majority of things on my own. And because of that, like I need as much information as possible from as many people as possible so I can be prepared and safe and
Yeah.
come home.
Yeah, totally. I think that's really relatable. Like a lot of the women that, I mean, are in our program and that we talk to, like a big thing for them is they don't have that community of people that want to go do things with them. So I think that's why solo adventures and solo backpacking is so appealing. It's like, okay, I don't have to stop living my life and doing the things that I want to do just
Mhm.
because I have to go alone.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you if you mentioned being like a little bit more independent and you had some solo hiking experience. Did you feel particularly nervous for your first solo backpacking trip?
No, I actually, the my first two solo trips, because they were back to back, I
Yeah.
actually chose routes that were extremely popular, and
Okay.
I knew like they're popular by day hikers and they're popular by backpackers. So I knew that there were going to be people around
Yeah.
in case something were to happen. And that
Yeah.
was my strategy going into it.
That's super smart. I love that because, like a lot of people worry about like what if something happens and I'm out there all alone and no one to help me? Like that's a really big one for people. And also even stranger danger, if there's so many people out there, then you kind of have that lessened as well too, because it's just like you're going to be running into all kinds of people when you're out on the trail. Do you remember? I can't remember if you said this. What area did you go to for your first solo?
So I did Horton Creek,
Okay.
and I did a loop. And interesting thing about that trip, so it was my third backpacking trip ever, my
Okay.
first solo. And unfortunately, that area has great cell reception. And so
Oh,
I was playing on my phone, posting pics on Instagram, and my battery died and my backup charger died. So I spent all night studying the map, making sure I knew where I was supposed to go the next day.
mm,
Well, the next day I missed my turn and I ended up hiking at least an extra 3 miles, like out of the way, and had to
yeah.
backtrack and find my turn. And it was then that I realized that you should always have a paper map and compass because
Yes.
batteries die.
Yeah, they do die. Yeah, it's like always good to have like redundancy in those things that are most important. And then also, I'm sure you learn the hard lesson of like, maybe I'll play on my phone less when I really like want to rely on it. But I also think like one of the things that really helps with preventing getting lost too is like, yeah, have the map. Yeah, do your GPS stuff, get it all ready. It's also like thinking, I'm sure before you went out on that trip, you said it was a trail you had hiked before.
No.
Oh, okay. But you knew it was a popular area. So you did your pre-trip planning and
Yep.
were aware of the route ahead of time. So you kind of
Mhm.
knew what to expect. So that also really like helps to, I don't know, give that confidence and to be like, oh crap, my
Yes.
phone died. Like, okay, yeah, this should be fairly simple. I'm just going to pay attention to my landmarkers. I have enough food, I have enough water. I'm going to like breathe through this and like keep going.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that was probably your biggest challenge then on your solo trip, I'm guessing.
Was missing my turn. Yes.
Yes. So, okay, wait. You said you were doing this in prep for that bigger trip with the 15-mile day. Did that one have a 15-mile day in it that turned into like 18 miles or I was like, because that's a big day.
Yeah, the 4 day trip. Yeah, day one was supposed to be 15 miles and it ended up being 18. And I think it's just because there were some reroutes on that trail. And one thing I'm learning the more I backpack and the more I hike in Arizona, especially
Mhm.
when you're in areas that has a lot of trees.
Yeah, or
Trees,
canyons.
trees are gonna fall. They're
Yeah.
gonna they're gonna block the trail. People and animals are gonna naturally reroute themselves around obstacles, and that happens frequently, like on the AZT, or
Mm.
it happened on Highline, and it'll happen anywhere you have a high population of trees and they just fall. So you can't account for all the trail reroutes. So as you plan the route that's on the map, but you don't know that the route has changed. So it
Right.
ended up being 18 miles. And let me tell you, every step after 15 was excruciating.
I know because your body locks into like a certain mileage and then you're like mentally prepared for it. And sometimes when it's longer, I mean, like in the Grand Canyon, I remember with Meg, we had 2 miles, I'm putting that in quotation marks, left of our very first day. And it was our longest day. It was like 12 miles. But those last 2 miles felt like the longest 2 miles of my life. They went by really slow. We were like boulder hopping and in some deep sand. It was, yeah, that can also happen in the desert, in those areas, in those climates. That's
Grand
such a
Canyon
good point.
miles are different than any
Yeah.
miles.
And sometimes your route, like I had stuff put in Gaia, and then when we got there, and I was like, well, the route on Gaia says to just hop over from this side of the canyon to the other side of the canyon. I'm going to take an educated guess that that is not what we're going to do. And we're just going to do our best to make sure we stay on trail and connect with where we're going later.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. So, okay, it sounds like that first solo trip, besides like, the extra miles and, kind of losing your service, went well for you. Was there anything else that kind of came up for you at that trip?
Not on that trip. That was the biggest thing. And then I also started putting myself in airplane mode. So I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
get I don't get notifications. I don't, you save battery that way too.
Yeah.
And then it keeps you off your phone so you can use your phone for navigational purposes.
Right. Yeah. Or navigation and photos. It's like pretty much
Yep.
everything I use it for. Yeah, there's like a whole slew of things. Just like for people listening, pro tip, if you even want to save extra battery, you can turn off the location like for your photos. That
Ooh.
oddly takes a lot of your battery up too. So okay. That was your third trip. What have been, so thinking about that very first trip, your first solo trip, what have been some of your biggest areas of growth in the outdoors since joining the Backpacking Badass program?
By far is going to be route finding. I remember at the very beginning, I would go like you're supposed to cross a wash and not go up the wash. And I would go
Mm,
up the wash thinking it was a trail because
yeah.
I just don't
Oh,
have
for
the
sure. It's
experience.
so easy, yeah, like to do that. Yeah.
And my really good friend who is very experienced in backpacking, he has been training me over these years to help identify what I need to look for when I'm on
Mhm.
trail. And he does that with me in the Grand Canyon too. When you're going through drainages,
Right.
he'll stop and be like, "Tell me where the trail is." find the trail. And so he'll test me. And now what he does is he just hangs out behind me and just watches me and just lets
Yeah,
me do my
nice.
thing. So by far, I am so much better at route finding to where now it's a lot more natural. I'm not
Yeah.
constantly in my phone verifying if I'm on
Right.
trail. I know I'm on trail, and my it's like my feet just know where to go now.
Yeah.
That would be the biggest area of improvement, I would say, while I'm backpacking.
Yeah.
I think this year I'm doing a lot more this year, and I'm also starting to. I've created like a Facebook group to try to meet new people,
Yeah.
and not do everything on my own. I did a lot of stuff by myself last year because my one friend isn't always available. He has a life, go figure.
Yeah. I can relate to
So,
that.
yeah, so I'm actually getting well versed in planning trips, um, identifying what my routes are going to be, and then being
Mhm.
able to communicate my route plans to other people so I can invite them on the trip and then they can
Yeah.
make an educated decision on if that's something they want to do.
Yeah. I think like that next step, yeah, into lead, like stepping more into the leadership role in backpacking, it's like a whole nother level of growth, like for your backpacking journey, because, there's just so many, especially if you're inviting people you don't know very well, like there's a whole nother element of like, helping them understand the objective and if they're prepared for it. And then also being out there on the trail and knowing when they like may not be as ready. And you have to kind of make a group decision of
Yeah.
like for safety. And so, yeah, I'm sure you're gonna get some of those lessons too as you start doing more of that with different people. But it's like a really rewarding thing to do too, and
Mhm.
a great way to like meet people. That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you kind of touched on this, but these days, it sounds like this year you're kind of challenging yourself to maybe like expand into more group stuff. Would you say most of your hikes, these past 33 hikes, have been mostly solo, or is it like 50-50 or what?
I would say, well, actually, I did the math.
Okay.
And so far, about a little over 20% of my backpacking trips have been solo.
Okay, great.
So not too much.
I mean, that's still like quite a bit,
Yeah.
especially in the context of 33 backpacking trips. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're still feeling like, do you like, are there things that come up for you when you go out there solo, or does it feel like the exact same for you when you're going solo versus in a group?
Oh, it's definitely different.
Yeah.
Being solo, you have no one else to rely on. Are you prepared? Um,
Yeah.
you're by yourself. I don't really get scared other than like I'm finally at camp and I'm like laying down and then you hear like these weird scary noises and it's
Yeah.
like, oh no, is a bear gonna come attack me and kill me in my tent by myself?
Yeah. Our brain likes to go there. It loves to like imagine the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
Like walk me through like how you deal with some of that. Cause I think some people are going to be like, wow, like Tiffany like just is fearless, but I'm sure you navigate your own kind of mind drama through this too. So maybe you can like
yeah.
give us a peek at how you handle your mind drama.
So, a specific example of that I particularly remember is when I went to go backpack Mount Baldy. That's a very popular route here in Arizona on the eastern side. And that is bear country.
Yeah.
And I saw evidence of bears everywhere.
Hmm.
And you also have mountain lions and bobcats, coyotes. You've got lots of wild animals out there. And hiking, I'm completely fine hiking on my own.
Yeah.
When I'm solo, hiking is therapy for me. So
Yeah.
when I'm solo, I'm in my head. I'm like I kind of deal with a lot of life things
Yeah.
solo. So hiking is therapeutic for me, so that's
Yeah.
fine. I don't experience fear unless like there's a couple instances that I experience fear.
Yeah.
One is like my phone's dying, my battery bank isn't working for some reason, and I have a solar panel now. So it's like,
Mm.
okay, so now I'm chasing the sun, trying to use my solar panel to charge my phone. That's one instance where fear will come up. And it's just kind of like, okay, do I have a map to study? And
Hmm.
then make sure that I study the map on my phone so I know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
Don't have a wrong turn again. And then the only other time I usually experience fear is what I mentioned before, is where I'm at camp. Usually, like I'll eat, I'll be in my tent, just kind of hanging out or getting ready to go to bed, and then that's when all the scary noises happen, or
Right.
you just have all these thoughts running in your head, like it's dark outside, I'm alone, there's no one else around, like
Yeah.
what if, what if, what if? And in those moments, what I do is I just make myself go to sleep. It's kind of
Yeah.
ignore it, just fall asleep, and then you'll wake up tomorrow and you'll be alive and it's fine.
Right. I mean, that's so true though. Like sometimes people, the tent thing comes up a lot for my clients, and they'll be like, "Okay, I'm fine until I get in my tent and it's dark out
Yep.
and I hear all the noises and then I have trouble going to sleep." And part of it is what you have done is you build a resume of like really positive experiences in the outdoors, and then your brain has those to kind of like lean back on. So when you're first starting, you don't have that, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
as you kind of go on more trips, you're like, well, I've done this 33 times and I've always been fine. So I'm going to keep choosing to believe that I will be fine. That's like part of one way to kind of, the fear doesn't always necessarily go away, but it does get better, I feel
Yeah.
like. And then, yeah, for me, kind of similar to what you said, it's like, I usually just choose to believe like my tent is my safe space. So as soon as I zip myself in, I'm like, I'm in my house. This is
Yep.
my home and I'm safe in my home. And that's just like a thought that I choose to have. And then I go to sleep. Yeah.
And you try not to remember that your tent is this thin piece of plastic that
Right.
someone could literally just push into and get you.
Yeah, but you know what? Yeah, I've always had positive experiences out in the backcountry. Wait, you recently okay, this is actually what I wanted to jump into next anyways. So I'm gonna come back to this, but cowboy camping. We're gonna put a pin in it and we're gonna come back because I'm gonna set
Okay.
it up first. So one of the trips that I want to celebrate you on was one of your recent trips in the Grand Canyon. It was, I think, your longest trip to date. It was 6 miles, 6 days.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, that was a big deal for you. It's like an area you wanted to explore more. Your longest trip. Was that trip solo or with a friend?
No. So my really good friend has been backpacking in the Grand Canyon for years. He
Yeah,
can't even count how many times he's backpacked the Grand Canyon. I call him my Grand Canyon guru.
nice.
So this was his
It's like
trip.
I have a Grand Canyon guru, you have a Grand Canyon guru. I love it.
Yeah. So this was his trip. So his idea was like originally the trip was supposed to be 7 days,
Mm,
and he wanted to do the entire. I use that term loosely because it's not the entire Tonto Trail, but
yeah,
from basically from New Hants to Hermit. But at that time, there was construction happening, and they had Tonto closed at South Kaibab, and you couldn't keep going.
okay.
So the trip got cut short to 6 days, and we exited at. Actually, no, it was still supposed to be 7, and we were going to exit at South Kaibab. Um, but what really happened was the weather changed in the Grand Canyon.
Oh, as it does.
It changed while we were in there. So the weather report we had before we went in there wasn't supposed to be any rain or
Hmm.
anything. And by day 5 that evening, you could just see the clouds on the north rim rolling in. We watched it snow on the south rim,
Yeah,
and it rained where we were. And we woke up on day 6 and it was raining. We were waiting for like 3 hours under our tarp before we left.
yeah.
And it was like, okay, do we hike the 4 miles to our next campsite and hide under a tarp, or do we just just leave. And
Yeah.
we decided to just leave, um,
Yeah.
which I think was a good decision. But that's how it ended up being 6 days. And he was the one that planned it. But yeah, so we did all of the East Tonto Trail.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, the weather can get wild in the Grand Canyon because when I went last year with Meg on the Royal Arch, we had some of the hottest weather ever. And then our last day, like we were getting weather reports too. We had with our InReach, we were getting them from her husband, who was kind of giving us like more detailed reports than you can get through the InReach. And he was like, "You got some crazy weather rolling in on your last day." And so Meg and I just made a game day decision to like wake up even earlier than we already were because it was really hot, to leave early because we had 4,000 feet of gain to get out. And it was like walking that day compared to the other days was like walking through a refrigerator door. It was like this cold, and then it started snowing once we got to the top. We were like, it's wild. Yeah. That's cool. I have heard of that trail, the East Tonto. And I do believe when we were out in the GC, we did like I don't know if it's technically called the Tonto Trail, but it was like the Tonto layer. We
Mhm.
were like hiking along. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a really, really cool trip. So that was about, okay, I think we pulled these stats from maybe one of your social media posts. That was like 47 miles
Yep.
and 8,200 feet of gain.
Yep.
Okay, that's a lot. Did you go with the East Tonto? Did you go all the way down to the
To the river.
confluence? Yeah.
So we did the Tonto doesn't go to the confluence, but
Okay.
we took New Hants in.
Yeah.
So New Hants does go down to the Colorado River, but it's more of like the high point
Yeah.
of the Colorado River. So we did go down to the Colorado River, and then you go back up onto the Tonto Plateau to get onto the East Tonto Trail. And then the Tonto Trail goes through a ton of drainages, and the
Mhm.
drainages in the Grand Canyon, if you're not familiar, are extremely deep. So you go down and then you come back up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that, but I love the Tonto Trail. What's great about it is it's mostly flat at the same elevation. You're just cruising, just going
Yeah.
around all of like the canyons.
Yeah. Was your water particularly tricky for that trail? I don't know much about it.
Well, we lucked out on day one because when we finally got down to the river, there was a couple already filtering water, and they
Hmm.
had like the MSR Guardian,
Yeah.
which in the river was brown.
Yeah.
So we couldn't use our filters because they would clog immediately. So
Mm.
luckily that couple filtered water for us. So we had water. That got us through until day two when we got to camp, and there was water at Hants Creek because that's where
Yeah.
we camped on day two. So everywhere we camped, there was,
Had a water source.
yeah,
You
there
didn't
was
have
a
to do any
water.
hauls or anything. That's
Not
good.
really, other than like with desert hiking, you always need to carry water because it's dry, it's hot.
For
You're gonna
sure.
you need to carry water, but it's not like you need to carry
You
like
weren't doing like a dry camp day.
no.
Yeah, that's nice.
Mhm.
Because it can be particularly brutal to like add on an extra 10 liters to your pack.
I'm an
Um,
expert at that now.
yeah, I've done it a couple times. It's not like my favorite thing in the whole world, but okay, was there like from that trip, what was maybe like give us something that you took away, like one of your biggest takeaways from that trip? Because I feel like every trip we go on, there's something that we take from it and it makes us a better backpacker or yeah.
That trip, I think I was really excited to be in the Grand Canyon for an extended period of time. What's funny to me about the Grand Canyon is I came out here as a teenager because I have family that live out here, and they took us to the Grand Canyon. As a teenager, I was like, what's
You're
so
like, what's the big
special?
deal?
It's a big ditch. Like, who cares?
It's
And
like those
then,
reviews. It's like big ditch. Not sure why people are stoked on it.
yeah. So the first time I went backpacking in the Grand Canyon, my friend took me, and that was we took Hance Trail down to the Hance Creek, and that's where, or not Hance, Hermit Trail to Hermit Creek, and
Yeah.
camped at the Hermit Campground. And like the whole way in, I was just like, whoa, whoa, wow. Like, because when you're at the top, you have no depth perception.
Yeah.
It's not
It
until
looks fake almost.
it does. It's
Yeah.
not until you literally start hiking into the Grand Canyon that you understand, start to kind of perceptualize like the deepness of it, because you go down and you're like, oh my God, I came from up there, and then you look down and it's like, oh, there's still more to
I
go.
have a lot more to go. Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's when I really fell in love with the Grand Canyon. So the 6 day trip was more so of just like being able to spend so much time in there.
Yeah,
The
that's cool.
one new thing I tried, which was because my friend is a cowboy camper,
Oh,
and
yes, this is the pin we put. We're coming back to it. Okay.
yeah,
Bring me
so
up to speed.
my
Maybe
friend.
describe what cowboy camping is to people who don't know.
So cowboy camping is where you lay down a tarp, you've got your sleeping pad, your sleeping bag, and that's it. You're just laying on the ground and
Yep.
that's your camp. No tent, no nothing. You're fully exposed. And in order to try to save weight and save space, my friend was like, you really should leave your tent at home, because the my first tent that I had is really bulky and heavy. So that was his suggestion. So I left it at home and I tried cowboy camping for the first time, and I just cannot do it. Like I was
I was
constantly
gonna I was gonna say, like, was it a hell yes, or are you like, no, I like my tent?
I like my tent. So
Oh,
so
wait, you committed to cowboy camping for 6 days.
I did.
Oh, wow. Okay,
I
you
didn't
gave
bring
it
a
an
tent.
honest, you gave it an honest shot.
I did. I did. The thing about it is like I had this fear of like, well, spiders are gonna crawl on
Okay.
my
This is
face.
my thing too.
And
Yeah.
then the thing that got me, where I was like, absolutely not, I'm not doing this anymore. I think, what night was this? I think this was night two. It was night two. So we're sitting under our tarp.
Yeah.
And it's dark. It's getting dark, and we look down, and all of a sudden there's a freaking mouse just right there, just
Mm,
staring at us. And
like,
I
hi.
screamed. I screamed like a little girl. I was like, ah! My friend's like, stop screaming in the Grand Canyon. People are gonna think you're dead. Like, stop. And I'm like, I'm sorry, it scared me. And then like I literally could not go to sleep after that. My
Oh
friend kind of
man.
like put his arm around me. He's like, it's okay. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep.
Yeah, you were committed at that point. You were deep in the canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's brave of you. I've always thought about that too. And while it seems light and efficient, I just love like zipping myself. It's mostly the bug thing for me. It's like
Yeah.
I just want to sleep knowing that nothing's going to try to crawl into my ear. I mean, okay, let's be real. Like a bug can still get in your tent, but it's just like less likely that it's just going to happen. And also, Meg and I, when we were in the Grand Canyon, one of the places we ended up camping when the sun went down got like littered with frogs. Like all these canyon tree frogs just came out of nowhere. And so it was wild. Yeah. So that could have been a crazy experience too, cowboy camping. Can you
Interesting.
imagine you just swatting frogs all night? So, yeah, okay. That's cool. I think it's like really neat that you gave it a shot.
I
But it
did.
sounds like you'll be going back to your tent, which I
I
don't blame
always
you.
have my tent with me, always.
Okay, one question I have for you is like kind of now that you're a few years into this, could 2022 Tiffany like even have imagined where you're at and like the things that you're doing today?
Not at all. No way.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly impressed with myself, because I tend to accidentally pick really hard trails, like
Yeah.
trails that are hard enough for my very experienced friend to be like, really, Tiff, why did you pick this trail? I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
totally.
It looked fun.
I love that. Yeah, it's like so neat. That's why I always like recommend people. It's like when you first get started with any of this, like hiking or backpacking, at the very beginning it feels like, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be like I just can't ever see myself doing the things that these people are doing or that person is doing." But I would love to. And I'm like, just if you would love to do those things, like hold space for it. And you never know, like in a year or 2 years or 3 years, like what you'll be looking back on and being like, holy shit, I'm pretty impressed with all the progress that I've made. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's amazing. Um, okay. So I guess one of the kind of wrap up this section, it's like, how have your goals and well, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm curious if you have anything more to add. Like, how have your goals and your confidence even evolved since joining the Backpacking Badass program? But like, when it comes to your goals, where are you focused now? That's kind of what I'm really interested to learn from you.
I would say my goals are more focused on really just more experiences. Like I said earlier, I have like this weird thing about national parks, and so now it's kind of like what national parks can you backpack in? And there are national monuments that also allow you to backpack in there as well. So finding places like that, because what I've found besides like your super popular national parks like the Grand Canyon, for
Yeah.
example, like you will, if you're trying to go to the Grand Canyon for solitude, it's never going to happen unless
Mm.
you're hiking in the dead middle of winter, like December, because people don't like being cold. But like Zion, super like it was a zoo on the day hike side, but the minute
Yeah.
I was in the backcountry, we were the only ones out there.
Mm,
So
yeah.
the great thing about backpacking in some of those areas is that you do get the solitude and you get away from the busyness of all the day hikers. So but really I'm mostly focused on some more out of state opportunities. So
Yeah.
this year I'm going to be exploring New Mexico for the first time. I'm gonna go back to Utah and do Capitol Reef.
Very cool.
And then I'm starting my trek into California with Sequoia National Park, but then I
Yeah.
also want to do Joshua Tree because you can backpack in Joshua Tree
Yeah.
and just kind of expanding some of my horizons outside of Arizona. Another goal of mine is I actually want to do a backpacking trip where I have to fly somewhere.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
that seems
Nice.
really cool, like walking through the airport with your backpack and people are just like,
Where's she going?
what are you doing?
Yeah, no, that's like its own kind of adventure in itself. It's like, is my gear gonna make it? Like, how do I get there? Yeah. You mentioned earlier too, like not picturing how people would like to do through hikes. Do you have any through hike ambitions in your future? Maybe not like this year, but I'm curious if that is on your radar at all.
I do want to work up to doing longer through hikes.
Yeah,
I currently don't have like this crazy drive to like take a month or two off of work and to like
right.
through hike the PCT or the AZT.
It is a big commitment.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
section hiking the AZT, and that's really just my goal currently is like how long can it take, will it take me to section hike the AZT? And I'm really
Mm,
just doing two passages at a time because you can
yeah.
typically do two passages in 4 days. Um,
I love that. Yeah, like when I was an engineer full time, I that's what I did. Like I only really had long weekends.
yeah.
So I just was section hiking the JMT. And then one day, like 6, 7 years later, I quit my job. And then I was like, oh, I have a month. I'm gonna take a month to actually do the whole thing at once. But yeah, it's like a big commitment to do some of these through hikes in particular. But
Yeah, and I would
section hiking
say
is great.
the biggest thing that makes me most apprehensive about those longer through hikes
Yeah.
is the specifically the logistics around like resupplies.
Mm,
I'm kind of nerdy about like having an unsupported through hike where
mhm.
I don't really want to go off trail and meet like a trail angel and take a 0 day. That's not really something I would want to do. I would want to
Okay.
do like 100% unsupported through hike. And so the thing that makes me nervous is like, well, you've got to figure out, well, how much food can I carry?
Yeah.
Where can I mail this package and pick it up and get my resupply? Like that's the part that makes me
It's a lot of logistics. Yeah. And each place is like, depending on which one you'd pick, it's different. Yeah, that definitely was probably the most stressful part of planning. The John Muir Trail was just like figuring out all of those logistics. Yeah. Okay. So the one thing I like to do with everyone that I interview on this podcast is some fun rapid fire questions. This is just to like give people a peek at you and kind of like, I don't know, it's just fun little questions. So we'll kick it off. What's your go-to trail snacks, Tiffany?
I have a couple.
Okay.
So snacky snack items, I would say I'm always eating walnuts and raisins and then a really good vegan protein bar. But like
Okay.
ultimate lunch item, my friend calls it backcountry hummus, but I found
Oh,
like instant hummus. So I
yes, that's so
mix
good.
mix it with water, and then I found tahini packets that I add to it, and then I carry olive oil with me. So I would say like the backcountry hummus is my thing for sure.
Great. Have you ever done dehydrated chickpeas?
I haven't tried that yet.
Oh yeah, that would be those are delicious as well. With like some plantain chips.
Ooh,
So good. That's a good one. Yeah, dehydrated hummus. The first time I discovered that, I was like, "What?
blew my
That's
mind.
so cool." Okay, what is your favorite piece of gear that you can't live without? I mean, there's a lot of pieces of gear we can't like we wouldn't want to hit the trail without, but like what's your favorite?
Hands down, my chair.
Oh, nice. Okay. Do you have just like one of those really ultralight backpacking chairs?
Yeah, I have the Helinox chair.
Nice.
Hmm.
Cool. Okay. If you could have any trail all to yourself for a solo weekend, where would you go?
Grand Canyon all day.
Just anywhere in the Grand Canyon?
If I could have any bit of solitude and peace, I would want it in the Grand Canyon where you don't get solitude and peace.
Well, I guess like, yeah, I think it really depends on where you go in the Grand Canyon, but like the very popular areas of the Grand Canyon are definitely really, really busy. Where Meg and I went, which you could work your way up to doing this trip, it was like very fun. Um, we saw like nobody.
Was it on the North Rim side or was it like on the
South
reservation?
Rim, South Rim side, but the way you had to get to the entrance of it was like this crazy off-road sort of like question gray area. Is it even legal to drive on or drive through
That's South
approach?
Bath.
I just don't even remember the trailhead name to be honest, but it was the Royal
Okay.
Arch Loop.
That
But
sounds like
yeah,
South Bath.
yeah, it was questionable. But then when we got out there, we only saw one person, and that was when he was coming up out of the canyon, we were going down in, and that's right when I sat on the cactus. I was like, great, yeah, the time I get like cactus spine all in my butt and I'm leaning over, my friend's getting it out, is when we saw one person, and at the river where we saw like river people kind of,
Yep.
yeah. So, but otherwise, yeah, it was pretty solo, but that's a great place. Trail sneakers or hiking boots? What kind of person are you?
Boots all day.
Nice. Oh, interesting choice. Okay. Tell me why that's your preference.
So, I actually do high top boots for the ankle support.
Yeah.
My ankles tend to act funny sometimes and like they don't know what to do. So,
Yes.
as much support as I can give for my ankles, the better.
Do you have like a particular version or brand of boot that you love?
Um, I've I've literally only had two pairs of boots, and in the first pair I ran through them in less than a year because they were like cheap $90 boots. So
Slash, you did like 16 backpacking trips.
yeah, and all the day hikes too.
Yes.
but the boots I have now are Solomon's, and they're very solid boots. I really like them, but I haven't tried anything else, so I'm not well versed in the different brands.
Yeah, I mean, when you find something that works really well for you, I'm kind of the person of like, just stick with it. Like shoes in particular, because it can be so personal for each person.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I'm more of a trail runner kind of girl, but that's me. And a lot of people do like prefer boots. So I'm like, you kind of have to find what works for you.
Yeah,
Okay. Would you rather never have to filter water again or never get blisters again?
never get blisters.
Oh, wow. Interesting choice. Do you get a lot of blisters?
Yes. Yeah, and filtering water is like nothing. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I do think it would be kind of cool, like if you just had a natural filter built into your body and you could just like stick your mouth into the river and it was fine. Like that would be cool. But I did get a lot of blisters in the Grand Canyon. It's hot, it's sandy, it's like easy to get them there.
yeah.
So that's valid as well. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, before we officially kind of wrap up this interview, I do have like a couple more questions. So, what would you say to somebody who wants to start solo backpacking, but maybe feels like scared of all the what ifs and stuff surrounding the solo backpacking aspect of it?
I would say if you're interested in solo backpacking, but you're scared, just try hiking first. Go on a lot of solo hiking trails. Get out in the wilderness and do some wilderness hikes where are around less people, and that will help develop your navigation skills, your route
Mhm.
finding skills. It'll help you understand how to use the different navigation tools depending on
Yes.
whatever your choice is. Building up that confidence through day hikes first,
Yeah.
and then when you start doing some solo backpacking trips, pick trails that are highly populated. So if anything does go wrong, there's at least people around for you to lean
Yeah.
on, ask questions, ask for guidance. One thing I can tell you, at least out here in Arizona, could be different depending on where you are, but
Yeah.
if you're out on trail, people are like so nice, so helpful. They'll just talk to you, just to say hi.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on like a section of the Arizona Trail, all the AZT hikers are like super cool,
Mhm.
super nice. So as long as there's people around, there will be people to help you if you need it. And then that will help build your confidence to go in the wilderness areas that are more remote. And then just do shorter hikes,
Yeah.
shorter trips. So that way, like if something does happen, then at least, like rescue workers don't have that far to get to you. Um,
Yeah, totally.
and then just build your way
Build from
up.
there. Yeah, no, I love that advice. And you're kind of like a really good testament to doing that yourself too.
Mhm.
It's like starting small and then
Yeah.
like growing from there. And as you build that positive resume of solo experiences, it does start to get more like less dramatic in your brain. I'm not saying your brain won't be dramatic about being out there solo
Oh,
because
it
our
will.
brains do what they want to do, but it will get a little bit easier,
Yeah.
in my experience. So, okay, one final thing. I remember when you graduated, you called the Backpacking Badass program a cheat code to backpacking, which I love, by the way. That made me laugh when I first heard it. Can you share just a little bit about what made the program feel kind of like a cheat code to you?
The program felt like a cheat code to me because on my very first backpacking trip, I had the knowledge, I had the gear, I had the understanding. And my friend, who again, very experienced, has taken people on their first
Mhm.
backpacking trips. He has experience in that area, and he complimented me on the fact that I was very prepared. I basically had everything I needed. He only had like a couple tips and tricks here and there.
Yeah,
That's really just specific to Arizona. So like one thing was I had an inflatable sleeping pad,
right.
And he was like,
Ooh,
you
if you get a
really need to
cactus
get,
in it,
yeah, you really need to get a foam pad.
or at least bring both.
Yeah, and that's my MO now is
Yeah.
I bring my foam pad and my inflatable pad.
Yeah.
And it's redundancy, so if the inflatable pad goes out, then I still have the foam pad.
Yeah.
But the way he complimented me on just my knowledge and understanding of what I needed to go backpacking was very impressive to him. And I was like, "Oh, well, thank you."
That's such a nice feeling though. Like
Yeah.
knowing you can, I call it like being the strong group contributor. It's like you go out there and it's like you're not helpless. Like
Yes.
you have some preparation, some knowledge. You're still learning because you're still like a beginner, but it's like you're going in with some know-how.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany. And thank you so much for joining us here today on the Adventurous Reinvention podcast and sharing your amazing story with everyone. Where could people connect with you and find you and follow your adventures if they'd like to learn more about you?
So I post all of my adventures on Instagram. My handle is Gaia_goddess 888. And then I also have a YouTube channel where I take all my collections of videos and put them up on YouTube. So you can
Holla.
find me on YouTube at Gaia Goddess Adventures.
Awesome. And we will also link those in the show notes too. So y'all can find that really easily and go check out Tiffany, see what she's doing, check out her desert adventures, and then also her branching out adventures into the new terrain this year. So thank you again so much, Tiffany. And thank you everyone for joining us on this episode. And we'll talk next week. All right, for those of you listening, if this episode lit a fire in you, if you've got that spark to get out there, learn the skills, and finally feel confident and self-sufficient in the outdoors, then now is the time. The Backpacking Badass program is officially open for enrollment for our summer open enrollment through June 13th. And this is our biggest enrollment of the summer with some of our best bonuses to support your journey. So whether your goal is to go solo like Tiffany, or you simply want to feel prepared and empowered to take your very first backpacking trip, you do not have to figure it out all alone. We even have clients who start just by building confidence as self-sufficient day hikers, taking things at their own pace, growing step by step towards future backpacking goals. And because this program comes with lifetime access, we are here to support you through every stage of your journey, from day hiker to solo backpacker and everything in between. Inside this program, we'll guide you through every piece of the puzzle: gear, training, navigation, safety, trip planning, mindset, all of the things. You will be backed by expert coaching from me and my team and a powerful community of women that truly gets it. Tiffany called this the cheat code to backpacking, and honestly, I couldn't agree more. So if you are interested in joining us inside the Backpacking Badass program, head to shedreamsofalpine.com/enroll to learn more about our special open enrollment and potentially join us. And if you have any questions about the program, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You can DM me on Instagram at shedreamsofalpine or email support@shedreamsofalpine.com. My team and I are here for you and to help you make the best decision for you. Enrollment closes on Friday, June 13th at midnight. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye. Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.